Last year, the theme for Connected Kenya was County Citizens Served. And I think a lot of progress has made since to see how to integrate and bring cohesiveness to ICT projects within the county. Your moderator for the first session will be Dr. Katherine Getao. But first, I forgot to mention yesterday where you can get all the presentations and information that we are sharing with you at Connected Kenya. If you weren't able to read the QR code yesterday, you can get the ICT Master Plan on the website, which is connected.go.ke. So please go to connected.go.ke for all the presentations, the background documents, and information on all the sessions here today. So after this session, we will have the ICT Innovation Awards, which I'm really looking forward to. The Innovation Awards are sponsored by IBM and UNDP. All right, so to get us started, please welcome Dr. Katherine Getao.
Good morning, colleagues. Many of you, especially those from the private sector, have been requesting us to assist you get an idea of what it is the counties are doing, how you can contribute, what kind of products they're looking for, and other very important questions for your businesses. I believe there are also very many organizations here that would like to work at the county level. And I believe all of you are excited that your scope and your markets have expanded from one national government to the national government plus 47 devolved governments. So without much further ado, I'd like my presentation to be put up. It's not really a presentation, but really just a small guide for this session, because I'd like you to spend as much time as possible interacting with the county executives. I'd like, first of all, to introduce the panelists. Firstly, I have Mr. Barnabas Sang, who is the CEC for ICT and e-government from Sang-UasinGishu County. We also have representing Kiambu County, Mrs. Mary Matu, who is the chair lady of Microclinic Technologies that's doing an exciting health project in Kiambu County. We have Mr. Joseph Kuria, representing the Commission for Revenue Allocation. He heads ICT there, and he's very knowledgeable about ICT issues in the counties. And we have Rukia Mohammed, who is the CEC for ICT, responsible for ICT from Wajir County. They've shown a lot of courage and diligence in being here, and I believe these are the right people to talk to you. They represent rural counties, they represent some of the commissions that are working hard, so they will be able to interact with you and answer the questions that you may have about the experience at the counties. Before we do that, I'll just give you a very brief summary of how the ICT Authority has been engaging with the counties. And then I just have a few questions for our panelists just to guide the initial conversation, and a few questions to guide the open discussion. Well, the ICT Authority realized it might be quite difficult and expensive to engage with the counties if we approach them one by one. So the Cabinet Secretary, ICT, suggested to us that we have a forum, and we had our first meeting in Nanyuki in October. Some of the private sector companies and some of the counties represented here were there at that meeting. And during that meeting, we actually agreed that we would create a forum involving the CECs, who are the ministers responsible for ICT from the different counties. Since then, we've held an additional 2 meetings. There was a meeting at Safari Park in December, and we held a pre-conference meeting here over the weekend before this meeting. That forum also selected 10 counties to represent them for a working group which could meet more frequently. So that particular working group has met 6 times to discuss various issues. And this has been an important coordination framework, and especially Rukia, I think, can comment on some of the ways in which perhaps that forum has been of use. The CECs quickly informed us that they wanted to have the blessing of their governors, and so they didn't want to have a very informal kind of gathering. So we have drafted a memorandum of agreement between the ICT authority and the Council of Governors, so that we can be meeting with the blessing of the governors. Subsequently, the World Bank approved about $12 million for this forum to use for ICT projects in the counties. Initially, roadmaps, yes, so the roadmaps are not ready. We've just identified the funding to do the roadmaps for each and every county, because there are many common things across the counties, but there are also some unique aspects which would reflect in the individual roadmap of each county. We have since decided as a group that money will also be used to do some basic e-readiness projects to help the counties to be on par. And to do that, we've created a structured methodology where we initially give seed funding for the most basic projects, and these include putting up the very basic infrastructure at the sub-county level, because most of the counties have between 2 and I think 11 sub-counties. And one of our findings when we did the initial e-readiness was that there's very little infrastructure at the sub-county level, which makes it difficult to have shared services across the county. So we've come up with a structured methodology where you get the seed funding, and then as you become more and more e-ready, the county becomes eligible for larger amounts of funding for specific projects at different levels. So we're trying to build a foundation by having the basic infrastructure, the basic systems in place, and then after that, we can do things like enterprise systems, and after that, we can do citizen services and other projects that rely on having an organized back office. We have also developed a framework to guide engagement between county and the private sector. I think it's been expensive for the private sector to go to each and every county and try to hold discussions and try to understand what they're doing. It's also been frustrating for the county to have dozens of companies making presentations every day. So we've worked with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, ICT Sector Group, and KITOS and a few other bodies to come up with a more coherent way in which the private sector can engage with counties. And then we have, in the process of trying to evaluate how this World Bank funding would be distributed, we collected some e-readiness data for 26 counties, which is quite detailed, and we're able to show the counties over the weekend where we are collectively. And we will continue to collect more information. So I hope in future the private sector will be able to access this information rather than going to each and every county to try and collect data. We also already had human capacity in ICT data for all 47 counties, And this is all important information that will help the roadmaps and will help our different stakeholders to get a clear idea of where the counties are at the moment. So that's really the end of my briefing. Now we'll go into the panel, and we'll just go from my left when I'm facing you. So we'll start with Barnabas.
Thank you. I think our role, especially some of us who are at the CC, is a political role, both technical and political. And I think if you read the newspapers and you see the kind of things happening in the counties, it impacts. So we have really had to learn, especially those from an official technical ICT background sitting in the counties. Nevertheless, I think counties, after the coming of ICT working group, have started to have a common agenda when it comes to ICT implementation on the ground. ICT-UasinGishu, I think we were lucky. We had an ICT champion from the governor, and so it allowed support of ICT issues to be more or less smooth. And I think one of the responsibilities we'll be seeking stakeholders and maybe ICT authorities to look on how to create more ICT champions at the highest leadership. Because without that push for ICT and getting appropriate ICT frameworks will be futile. When we were developing the county integrated development plan, I think one of the push was to capture as much when it comes to ICT, and that was a plus for us, because once the county assembly approved it, it's like a law, because one of the things that our assemblies are usually using is the county integrated development plan. They will always ask you, if it's not captured there, why are you pushing for funding? Why are you pushing for a given strategy? The second bit is because we are a substantive portfolio on ICT in the county, we had the county subcommittee, which is more or less an oversight engaging. So we were able to come up with ICT strategy, take to the house, and they approved it. Probably it's part of the engagement with the assembly on oversight. So the strategy had a work plan which indicates set activities. I think that allowed for budgeting to be prioritized and other activities. It has not been easy. So basically we have worked on establishment. That means getting the structure for ICT department, and also on course in getting staff, appropriate staff to drive the agenda of ICT for development. Our focus is, apart from automation, which we are calling the infrastructure, we are looking at how does ICT support farmers, because an agricultural county, if you look at it, we have more than 1,000 farmers who are milking almost 1,000 liters of milk a day and above. We have more than 280,000 households, and that's a county where everyone has food 365 days. So you look at how do you convert that kind of population who are generally satisfied, they have food, they have land, to be entrepreneurs. So it's a huge opportunity which we are trying to tap into and to change, to go horticulture and implement systems that allow traceability of products, agricultural products, so that you can tap into international markets. So basically, we are, of course, we have been engaging also youth. Eldoret has 100,000 student population because of the universities and I think the importance of the town. And basically, we are engaging also the youth who are undertaking ICT programs. And also various innovation apps. I think I've been here on iApp to look at some of the youth who are developing mobile apps. How do we take advantage of those? Sorting out basic things, be it revenue, be it other things that we're handling on the ground. I think I rest there and we'll contribute further.
Thank you so much, Barnabas. Mary, maybe you can give us some insight into a few of the things going on in Kiambu.
As you've been told, my name is Mary Matu, and actually we are microclinic technologists, and we've developed an innovative health systems management tool, which was approved by the national government. But then we realized very quickly, because the health sector was devolved, that we need to work with the counties. So we've partnered with Kiambu County, and we have completely automated a health center, Ngenda Health Center, and by the end of this week, Gatondo District Hospital will also be in the system. The system we've developed is driven by the fact that the health sector is a sector that requires data. It's a data-driven sector. You need to share information in terms of epidemiology, commodities, systems. So we've partnered with Kiambu, and it's worked very well. Actually, initially we piloted in Kisumu County. We've had some discussion, and from this meeting, we have talked to Mombasa County. Mombasa County is interested in adopting ZD. ZD is and you'll hear more about ZD from the presentation by Microsoft, because the system is working on the Windows 8 platform, and the data is being saved in the Microsoft Azure cloud. So you'll hear more about ZD from the presentation by Microsoft. It has worked very well for us, because by Kiambu adopting this system, it means now they will also be linked to the national, they'll be able to share data with other counties. They'll be able to order their commodities from KEMSA, the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, more effectively, and the decisions will be data-driven, other than the ad hoc decisions that have been made in the past in the sector. So we are looking forward to working with all the counties. The national government has already adopted the system, and this way, the counties will be accountable to the national government, and the national government will be accountable to the counties. So we are very excited. I'll be more than willing to discuss more about the software.
Thank you, Mary. Joseph, I think Mary has raised an important issue, and that is the issue of having systems in the county that can share data and information with national systems, and that enable the counties to share data with each other. How is the Commission for Revenue Allocation assisting counties to invest in projects that have more general applicability?
As you indicated, my name is Joseph Courier, Director ICT from the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Before I talk about the particular issue of the system, let me just give the overarching relationship between the Commission and also the county governments. As a Commission, we have clear mandates on equitable allocation of revenue or resources between the national governments and the county governments, which we call vertical allocation, and also equitable allocation of resources between or amongst the county governments, which we call horizontal allocation. Other than that, we also have other mandates, and that is advising and recommending on financing and financial management by both the national government and also the county government. We also have now mandates, which is also advising and recommending on revenue enhancement by both national governments and county governments. But most importantly, and I think that's where the question that Dr. Katherine has brought up comes in, is the issue of encouraging fiscal discipline, within the county governments. And as such, from where I sit as the Director ICT, I have a mandate to help the county governments to ensure that the system that they are deploying out there actually have value. And when we talk about value, you look at how integrated is the system and what is the return that the system is going to give the county from where they are, the benchmark, the system they are actually bringing on board. How is it going to elevate them from the current position they are in to a higher position? Why I'm saying this is because from the fiscal discipline, we have a parameter called fiscal responsibility. If you don't if we give you, say, 7 billion, and then you use it only on the current expenditure, and there is no development on it, and your revenue remains low, then the next allocation, we give you less money, and we give the county that has really utilized the money that we've given more money. Now, when it comes now to the issue of systems that can really work for the counties, I think this is more of an approach from the county government itself. Unfortunately, where the stage we are in, the county government is facing a lot of challenges. One is the issue of capacity in terms of the numbers, the number of ICT staff in the counties who can champion this. The second one is in terms of also the hired skills of ICT people who can be able to champion the systems in the counties. Fortunately, we have some counties who are very well in terms of, very well placed in terms of the skills that they have there. But there are some counties still, again, who are also lagging behind. But most importantly also, as a commission, to ensure that the systems and the placement within the county works in tandem, what we've done is we've been engaging the county government at the county level to ensure that we have the right people to drive the ICT. A case in point is you realize that this ICT is not a devolved function. And initially, most of the county government never assigned a CEC to be in charge of ICT. So ICT initially was not represented at the highest level, meaning you find that some counties whose ICT budget is very low, which cannot even be able to manage even any infrastructure. But having said that, allow me to say that we are working with the various organizations, ICTA, IFMIS, that's through the Treasury, and also other private sector to actually ensure that everything works out well for the county government. For the private sector, they have a very crucial role to play, a very critical role to play. One, as I mentioned, the issue of the capacity. Every county is talking about the bloated workforce, and the skills are within the private sector. The government cannot be able to pay the kind of salaries that the private sector pays for the hired staff, but the county government can actually outsource that particular service and learn their service without having to invest in that kind of skills. So, but what as a commission we are doing is we are working, some of the private sector have been coming to our commission and asking what's the legal framework that we need to follow when you're coming up or when you're linking with the county governments, and especially on revenue management system and financial management system. So we've been advising them as partners, this is the road that you need to follow. These are the gaps. And then the county governments, this is how you need to look out for these pitfalls. The private sector, use this roadmap, and you're going to have it smooth out there in the counties. Thank you.
Last but not by any means least, we have Rukia Ahmed from Wajir County. And this is a county that started with very big challenges in the area of ICT. But they very much risen to the occasion, as she's been sharing with us. Maybe you can give us some insight to the level of challenge you faced and to some of the areas that you have identified as priorities for ICT and how collaboration could help you move faster.
Thank you very much. And I want to give you a brief background of Wajir County. And Wajir County is one of the biggest counties, and it covers about 60,000 kilometers square, which is equivalent to 10% of the county of Kenya's landmass. We started from scratch. We did not inherit even a single computer from the defunct county council. We did not have a single information officer on the ground before the county government. And the county had a very limited communication network with less than 20% connectivity to radio, to TV, to newspaper, to internet, and mobile phone network and postal services. Now, our governor was very visionary in creating the Department of ICT, and unlike most of the counties, an ICT department stands alone in the county government of Wajir. So that's a commitment on ICT issues. And we are 8 staff. I was the first ICT staff of the department, and today we are 8. We have our budget line was 214 for the first 214 million for the first financial year. Now, as a county, we envision being a model digital county that is recognized for utilizing modern ICT that drive and service delivery, productivity, and economic prosperity. And what we've achieved so far is that we've institutionalized the ICT and e-government department in the county setup. We have developed the ICT sectoral plan. We have held citizen forums in 12 wards. We have developed a county website and its domain. And now we are upgrading it to a county portal. We established a mailing system for all the county staff. We've completed a structured cabling network for internet connectivity, which also has LAN and intercom for 5 buildings, and we are connecting 2 more the next 1 month. We have purchased an ICT equipment from printers to antivirus to flash disk that is worth 15 million for all the county staff and departments. We have cascaded the national ICT systems such as IFMIS, LIFORMS, and IPPD and trained our staff on its use. Wajir County has been recognized by CRA as one of the counties that handles over 90% of all its transactions on IFMIS and GPay platforms. Mr. Joseph, you can confirm.
Yes, sure.
Now, our ongoing projects include procurement of county revenue collection system, and a county radio and station that covers the entire county, a citizen service center, which is like a Huduma center, the one we have in the ones we have in GPO. We have we're also working on partnership with mobile service providers such as Safaricom. We've already initiated the partnership with Safaricom and Airtel, and it is at a first stage, and we are investing in the infrastructure such as the base stations, and the service providers will put the service, which is the network, but we are doing that in form of renting. We are renting the facilities to the service providers, and it is a source of revenue for the county. And we've also advertised at an advanced stage on our consultant service for the county roadmap, which will include the the ICT baseline or e-readiness survey, ICT policy, and the county master plan, which will be in line with the national ICT plan that we launched yesterday. Our future plans include a county capacity building program for all the county staff, and ICT systems such as ERP, HMIS, and CES, and it is and now we also want, we have the fiber optic, which is passing through six sub-counties, and we want to extend it to the other 6 sub-counties which are in the same route. Now, in addition to that, we want to connect our headquarters which is now the upcoming headquarter, and the community centers, the county radio, and the citizen service center, and our hospitals with the fiber and optic. We also have a network coupling and internet connectivity plan for all the county offices and institutions. We have plans for setting up CCTV for the upcoming county headquarter. We want to also have planned to establish data centers in our headquarter and in the 6 community centers. And we also have ICT and centers. We also want to, in our plan, we also have ICT schools or centers of excellence. And in our future plan, we also have ICT incubators and construction of public baraza sheds. And in addition to that, what we have currently in place is that the national fiber optic is in the county, and we have a mobile network coverage limited to a few main settlement areas. We have 2 radio stations, one that is a community radio and a private one, which are also limited to Wajir town, and it is surrounding. The challenges we faced includes inadequate communication network, and especially in the rural areas, such as broadcasting, telephone, print, postal, and internet services. We have limited penetration of ICT infrastructure in the county. We have a high cost of ICT infrastructure and ICT equipment that make ICT services also expensive. Lack of modern ICT government resources and documentation centers. Inadequate ICT skilled manpower. We have lack of ICT training institutions. Inadequate power supply for running ICT equipment and services. And we also have, as a county, a high level of illiteracy, which also limits access to print and electronic media. We have lack of investment from the private sector in the ICT sector. We have also negative media coverage, which also affects the county image and investment. We have low capacity of the community, which also affects the community participation. I have 2 announcements. Wajir County is holding its first investors conference on 3rd and 4th of June. And Wajir has great potentials, especially in the area of ICT, and will give free land for investment. So I'm inviting all the private sectors and the public who are here to come and invest in Wajir. Secondly, we are coming up with a big modern building, which is more modern and bigger than this one. And we want to host the next ICT connectivity conference next year. Thank you.
So this is your time to give us your feedback.
Coming from the Tech Hub, the iHub, we have young developers, the youth. What we need to know from the different counties is how can we as the youth from the urban areas come and help you. The challenges you are facing are valid, very valid, and we are here. We have the capacity is something that you mentioned that you need. We are here to help you, and we're here to get you to the next stage. If you want to have the next connected, we can enable that to happen. But we need to know exactly where the youth can come in and actually help you. And this goes to all the different counties. I like the idea, borrowing from different counties. The thing is, how can we bring you to the iHub, to the tech hubs, and share the lessons? I think collaboration is extremely important on different levels. So how can we engage more? So I think 3 things I asked there.
Morning, Bugwanje here, Symbiotic. I'm more interested in the innards of the engagement in Kiambu County. And the first one is, could you share more deeply on the nature, the exact nature of the pilot deployments? How do you get to cover both the private sector interest? Because you know, when you're doing a pilot, there is the issue of cost. So usually private sector would meet that cost. But then with procurement rules, how do you then almost say, quote unquote, fly under the tender radar to make sure that your agenda is met. Because there's no point of doing a pilot and then the CIC now tells you, oh, you know, we need to go to tender, and then all of a sudden you see half-page ad with your document, you know, the bullet points as presented. That's question one. And two is on the actual system. You mentioned it riding off on top of Microsoft. Is it a Microsoft product? And what are the data standards that you have applied? Is the platform open to others, or are you looking at a siloed approach? The unfortunate thing is a lot of people will deploy solutions county level, but you know we have a national health ICT master plan, and you're looking at ways that you need to be able to feed data from all these independent systems into the single source of truth. So what's the nature of the actual product itself? Thank you.
Brian Mwangeka from the University of Nairobi. Couple of questions, but probably the first one is the question of collaboration. Probably someone from the counties can elaborate on that. Are there any attempts for synergy? Because we cannot attempt to make every county the same. The counties that will have strengths that others will not have. So instead of replicating everything at a smaller scale, has there been any attempt, for instance, to unify some of these plans around, say, a block of counties instead of just each county going its own path and its own route? The second question is the issue of cascading systems. Mbugua has actually just touched on that. Are there specific national systems that the counties have to implement? Do the counties have options not to implement some of these, go their own way? What exactly is it's called the principle of subsidiarity. What exactly is it in the master plan? It was missing. I should probably ask Professor Waima that. You know, and then finally, according to Mbugua, did I hear this right? Is the medical data in a public cloud? I mean, I just need a clarification on that. Thank you.
My concern is, what are the plans put in place to develop the skills and capacity building, especially for the youth, through the youth polytechnics?
So mine is I recognize that the biggest problem in rural areas is that the issue of broadband and connectivity infrastructure. I applaud Wajir, because in their plan, they have involved more revenue on developing those structure. I want to maybe suggest that the county, they must also be working to improve those infrastructure, broadband connectivity to those rural areas, so that the other players who feel that the rural areas are not viable, commercially viable, they found those structure in place and they are willing to invest. Thank you.
Okay. This is about the functions of a county government. And I wanted to clarify that really, you cannot categorically state that ICT is not a devolved function. Because really, when you look at the functions as captured in the 4th schedule of the Constitution, we have what we call the exclusive functions, the concurrent functions, and the residue functions. And I would want to see ICT as an enabler. So if you categorically say that ICT is not devolved, then I think you'll basically be misleading, because the county government is within its mandate to automate its services. So you cannot expect the national government to go to the county governments and help them do that. And I'm very, very happy with what is happening in Wajir, because you can see a very disadvantaged county that is rising to the occasion and doing so much with such limited resources. So I would want to really address myself to the representatives of the county governments who are here, that this will be a very good opportunity for the county governments to start on the right footing. And I would advise that they come up with the proper government strategies, so that as they roll out their programs and activities for development, they are rolling out properly thought out programs and that they are automated, and therefore it is it's a very good opportunity for them. Thank you very much.
Now, and I said we are coming up. We are currently constructing 6 community centers, and each community center has 4 shops. We want those shops to be ICT-related shops, and want to give it to the youth. In addition to that, we have a revolving enterprise fund, which is for this first financial year is 100 million. And we also want to extend part of that to those youth. Now, and in addition to that, we want capacity building and coaching, mentoring, and exposure programs for those youth, so that after 2 years they graduate and they mentor other and upcoming youth in the issue of ICT. So, and I will contact and we'll talk more, discuss more, and in the next 2 months, and I really want to focus on partnership. And there are many areas we can partner on, and most of you, I'll visit your offices. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Joseph? Thank you. Let me first start by answering Jessica on the issue of youths and IHUB. I think as a Commission on Revenue Allocation, we identified the potential that IHUB is, the techies that IHUB have, and even the applications they are developing. And for all our engagement with the county, and especially when we are looking at what areas needs to be automated and the kind of data we want to gather from the county governments, we have always used IHUB. And they have done exemplary well. Some of the applications they are developing there, some of them come from the ideas they have gotten from the counties, and that's why they identify clearly with what is going on in the ground when they're developing these applications. The other thing that I think has been asked was by the Sang-UasinGishu CEO is the nature of deployment of the public and tender process. I think this is a very, very, very crucial area that has been kind of buffering most of the suppliers here. Because what is going on is issue of lighting MOUs, which is a little bit away from a public procurement. But there are some guidelines on this whole issue with the Public Procurement and Oversight Authority, which I might not be able to comment at this particular stage. But we're encouraging the county governments that whatever they're doing, they do it as according to the law. Okay, they do it as according to the law. The other thing that Brian Mwangeka has asked is about the synergies within the counties. And it's true. When you join hands together and come up with something that cuts across, you save a lot in terms of economies of scale. And we've been engaging the Council of Governors on areas that can actually be harmonized. One of them is on the capacity. And recently we concluded the issue of training at the highest level within the county governments by jointly collaborating with institutions like Strathmore University. Strathmore University had some FAT, we had some FAT. Rather than actually doing segmented training, we did one training for the county governments. But most importantly is now bringing the counties together. We've been doing arrangements with some counties who are doing very well, like now Wajir. We would identify a county that is lagging behind. And then we do exchange, we facilitate the exchange program, whereby they could go and learn from Wajir County. And also we are looking at cluster counties which are written or are in a particular area, where they can actually share some of the applications within the infrastructure around, such that they don't have to actually invest a lot and waste a lot of resources, which they can actually use from what they have collaborated together. I want to also mention on the issue of, I think Kubo asked this on the issue of broadband connectivity, and this has been one of the greatest challenges. I think Victor will be in a position to answer about the North B thing. But as far as deployment of the systems that we need in the counties, as a commission, we want to get information. We want to get the data out there. how are the counties utilizing the revenue we've given them. But we cannot go to each and every county. The only thing that we can do is use the infrastructure and query the data real time. That goes with other constitutional offices like COB and also the Auditor General. Currently we have IFMIS, which is doing a very good job, deployed in all the counties. But again, we also need it to be deployed in the sub-county levels, which is the next phase. So the issue of broadband connectivity and the speed that is there is very, very key to all of us. Apart from that, also the county governments, the program they want to learn at the sub-county level is also very key, but it can only learn through the infrastructure. Finally, Mr. Kehara has asked about the issue of the devolved functions. This is something which is, the issue of devolved function is a phased approach. The very first phase that the TA devolved was not expressed on the issue of the ICT. And if you look at most of the county governments that have visited, it has been an uphill task identifying who is in charge of what. Actually, in some counties, the person in charge of ICT is just an ICT officer, not even a director. And when it comes now to the issue of collaboration, it becomes a challenge. So what we've been doing as CRA is to encourage. There is a framework that had been developed. I think Dr. Katherine was instrumental in that. The roles that the ICT needs to have, the structure. And that's what I've been, when we meet with the governors, that's what we've been hammering. Can we have a structure that can be able to devolve ICT even within the county itself, such that you don't have an ICT which is just a shell supports function, and when you go to the finance department within the county, they have their own ICT. When you go to education, they have their own ICT. When you go to agriculture, they have their own ICT. That's silos and can work. And even the suppliers here, when they go to the counties, they don't even know where to start. So the issue of ICT is critical, and we've been championing that each and every county should have a substantive ICT CC to champion this. Thank you.
Okay. Mary, and I guess we'll keep it brief and maybe focus on the things that were asked to you specifically.
I will tell you that for this particular project, all our developers are Kenyans under 30. So for that, we've taken it on, and I'll be very interested. And if the ZD project is incorporated countrywide, we'll be able to provide 5,000 ICT jobs to the youth. So we are very close to this, and I'll be willing to discuss more in how they can provide the support. I really appreciate that. Now, coming to the question on how do we collaborate with the counties and the procurement systems, unfortunately, the public procurement system has been abused in terms of killing projects. So what we did is we've done what is called a public-private partnership, where the county did not, we sourced for the funding outside, where the county did not, so as long as the county was not providing the money, then all they needed was to approve, and we worked with the health teams. But what I would like to say is before we went to Kiambu County, we had done a lot of work with the central government. We did a lot of consultations with the key private, public sector holders. We've done serious consultations with the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority in terms of incorporating their supply order request forms into the system. And when we go to a county, I'll answer the question of, is this the system that's required? No, what we do is we go and look at what do you have, and we let them, we say, compare. If you approve what we have, and true to us, every county we've gone to has actually said this is better than what we have. And I'm going really very briefly. If anybody wants to consult after this, I'll be willing to do that. In terms of what you asked about data security in the cloud, actually, I'll let Microsoft, answer this question, but I would like to confirm to you that that data is safer in there are a lot of checks. You need a password, and that's the way the world is going now. But I'll let Microsoft deal with the issue of data security in the cloud. Any question? Okay. And the question about the product, our very, it's if I talked about the product, it's a presentation that will require about half an hour, 40 minutes. But very basically, it's an integrated health management tool that when you walk into a facility, the information is taken from the patient by the caregiver. Each medical facility as a local server, so the hospital can share, the doctors in the hospital can share, and of course it's not really a medical record, but you need to be allowed. I mean, it's just like the information that the banks are using, that you need a password to get certain information. So for instance, a doctor will be able to get all the patient records. The person at pharmacy will just need to know the medicine they are providing. And then the cashier needs to know what is being charged and how much it's being charged. But I would really be very interested in discussing the details of the system. But it's working very well in the facilities where we have installed it. Thank you.
Collaboration, we have no option. I think most of us in executive in counties, we are consulting and trying to form the blocks so that we share, especially solutions and even some critical strategies so that we don't reinvent a wheel. That's ongoing. And I think even the forum that has been formed through ICT authorities helping shape that up. Engaging the youth is a bit challenging. One, because youth have not understood the business prowess on how to engage. Government, we use procurement rules. So are they in the PPP arena? They don't understand the gymnastics under PPP. So, and these are youth who have innovations, they have nice solutions. So for some of us, we have gone our bit to educate them, link them with mentorship program with people who have done this. So they know, as ICT, you have to get a given solution, how do I package it and buy? And we are saying youth will supply. They have to meet some tendering conditions. So sometimes you engage with our assemblies to see how we can waiver some of these conditions for the youth. So it's an education program that requires proactive. I don't know whether this has been internalized or integrated in institution of higher learning when they are teaching, especially entrepreneurship. There's something in that area that requires a follow-up. Yes, Kiara, we are establishing ICT strategies and especially e-government so that we have a sound base. But I think the launch of National ICT Master Plan will help a lot of our counties to be at bar. And I think this will be a continuous program as way forward.
I'll just very briefly answer those issues which I think have not already been addressed. And by telling you where the facility lies. First of all, the ICT authority is squarely in charge of ICT standards. So those issues that you've raised that have to do with standards, whether they have to do with data, whether they have to do with capacity of staff, you can please engage with the ICT authority, and it is a very open organization that is ready to work with you. The second facility you have is the county forum and the county working group. The county forum meets quarterly. Organized, the secretariat is the ICT authority once again. So if you have a common issue in the private sector or even in the public sector that you wish to meet with all the counties, you can make a request for that issue to be part of a county forum. And I think one of the issues that's coming up is how the youth can engage with counties. And I believe that could be the subject of a discussion in a county forum. If you can't wait for 3 months, there is a county working group which meets monthly. It involves less counties, but it is still an opportunity to discuss. Now, what we don't want is sort of individual issues, so I would urge that you work with your industry associations so that the issues that you bring to a county working group or to a county forum are common issues that affect a number of private sector players. I think I'll stop there because we've eaten well into the time of the next session. And I thank you very much for your great participation, and thank you so much to the panelists for really encouraging us that something is going on. Thank you.